Sugar. Hi. This is Cockatude. Cockatoos with attitude. What are you doing up there, Shug? She's been hanging around with me, haven't you, girl? We have Sugar with us today. We do not have any of the birds that tend to be a little bit aggressive. They're not in here. We got Romeo today, though. Sugar on my head. Jasmine and Lucy and KK and Mander and Cecil. We're going to talk about feeding your bird when your bird's sick or injured, and that's going to be the topic today. So we're going to go over what to feed them, why you have to feed them if they're not eating, what kind of foods to give them. So basically the methods, and then the signs, whether they're eating, using weight tracking, checking their bowls, but weight tracking is important, and also checking their poop. So that's what you have to do when you have a bird that's not eating. So, but you look pretty healthy today. He's a little aggravated at me because I had to take all the wood away from him. There's no wood in here either. So this one loves to chew, and I'm not letting him do it. Right, KK? Hmm. I know. You're getting tired of egg crates. I know. KK? He is definitely tired of egg crates at this point. So it's not much to chew on when you're used to chewing on big pieces of wood. Yeah, so one of the things you do when you have a bird who's not eating is you check their poop. He just pooped and it all looks normal. So maybe a little bit shy on the urine side, but they've been pretty much normal lately. Today is his first day without getting any KT exact hand feeding formula, but he got a little extra yams this morning, and I squished up his mash so there wasn't anything hard to chew on. Although right now he would definitely chew. He's also getting my birdie bread and I'm watering it down so it's soft. So he's getting that.
Sweet KK bird.
He's telling me I want something else. Give me more variety. Where's my pellets? Where's my almonds? Where's my, that kind of thing. So, right, Mr. KK?
Such a sweet KK bird. But let's greet our viewers and chatters. So hello, everybody watching us right now. And also welcome to everybody who is watching us at a later time. Then let's greet our chatters. We have Spirit Matter here today. Tiki Tiki is here. Then Falcon Sue wishes everybody and everybody a happy Wednesday. We have Jocelyn Trickle here. Jocelyn is a member for 20 months. So thank you for that. Thanks everybody who is supporting us. So then we have Colin Thurston is with us and Giselle plant-based vegan. They have not changed our names back. It's still the @ sign. But hello and welcome to you all. Great to have you here today with us. Looking how it's going with our KK.
Yeah, he's well on the mend. Today should be his last day of injectable Baytril. So it's the last time I'm going to have to needle him unless there's some kind of change. I'll have to watch him for the next 48 hours to make sure no problems develop with his tongue, which would be any areas that start to look red, or if he were to uh, that's nice. Whack me in the head with your tail, little girl. What are you doing? I'm being beaten up by a sugar bird.
Mm.
You have to also look for any kind of odor if he gets a bad odor to his beak, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I will assess and see if we go another day, but probably not. He's looking pretty good, and he's just looking for anything he can chew on right now. Archie boy. So
Well, I think they have a strong urge to chew, so.
yeah, it reminds me of that fire sign theater where they were talking about rats, and rats must chew, or their teeth will grow into their brains, is what they said in that fire sign theater. And anybody who knows fire sign theater is older than dirt, so you would have had to have been a hippie to know that. That's pretty much the people who listened to it. It was funny stuff, but what are you doing? See, he will chew almost anything now. He's trying to chew the chair. I know, it's no fun. I will give you stuff to chew on, but not yet. Not while you still have scabs on your tongue. So of course with him, we'll go over this, but well, I've had to make sure his droppings are okay, and they are definitely fine now. Um he was getting more liquid in his KT exact, so that's why he's probably not showing too much urine in his droppings. But they also pick up kind of a brownish color if you're feeding them KT exact hand feeding solution. But there are a lot of things you need to do besides that. I mean, you have to check his weight every day. That's something you should be doing anyway. But his weight's back up to normal, isn't it? You want to come over here? You looked at me. Do you want to come over? Well, come on. You come over and see your buddy. There's your buddy. Don't hit him with that, please. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that a bird can be losing weight. One of the common causes really are, if they're in pain, if there's an infection, medical side effects, from some kind of medicine you're giving them, or some treatment that they're undergoing. Why are you walking on my arm? Depression, if they're not getting enough. He's bordering on depression because he has nothing to chew on except his feathers. Right, boy? Trauma. They move them from one place to another, that kind of thing. Um, or there's some kind of, like we had that fight that I didn't get to see because I was moving Bob inside. You trying to get me killed, Mander? Mander's crawled up above me now. He's getting brave in his old age. So, aren't you, Mander? You getting brave? Whoops. Now I can't
What's
see
the
the screen.
matter? Brave. Oh no, we lost Don. What a pity. I guess he will come back soon. So let's see if I find. Oh no, he is already there. So not even necessary to start the sugar video. Welcome back, Don.
Yeah, I didn't do anything. It just decided to do that on its own. Get out of here. I wasn't. I'm yelling at the thing now. There we go. I'm trying to get the thing there. I was just trying to point it at Matter, and when I tilted it up, it went stupid.
Mm.
So I'll say what Larry Johnson, the political potentate, says. He says, "I hate StreamYard," although we're pretty happy with it, but that's because we're out here. You know, when you're out in the aviary, it's kind of hard to use anything else because they require you to have a computer. We could do that, but it wouldn't last the day. Cecil, you're going to have to get off my arm. That there's one thing they always find some way to. If you want to have notes or an outline, I have to put it on my wrist. He climbs right on my wrist. So if they're emotionally upset, what'll happen is their digestion will slow. If you're depressed, you there's two ways it can go, right, with humans, but with them it's pretty much, if they're depressed, they just slow down their eating. Their digestive system slows down. With humans it could go either way. You're depressed, you eat a bunch. People do that, but usually with birds it's going to be the other way around. So they start losing weight. Hi, Lucy. They start losing weight, it can be just depression. um, it's important to keep an eye on them. That's why I say to weigh your birds. That's why almost all people who are into parrot behavior will say you need to weigh your birds, because if they stop eating and you don't notice it, you'll notice the weight change. That's something you'll see right away because they can lose weight fast. KK, over the bite, lost about 30 grams, and he's gained it all back in just a couple of days, but he lost about 30 grams in weight. So now you won't, because they have feathers, you don't see it. By the time you actually see there's a problem, it can be too late. So weigh your birds. It's important. You don't have to have a perch scale either. Most these guys will all stand on any scale. Most of them are less likely to stand on a perch, to be honest. But they'd rather stand on a flat scale. Right, KK? So you don't ever just say, I'm going to wait to see if they start eating. You know, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at, huh? You don't want to wait to see if they start eating. If they're not eating, you need to hand feed them. And then they'll get kind of addicted to the hand feeding. So you've got to break that habit. Fortunately, with KK, he was hungry enough in the morning, and I don't leave food other than birdie bread in his cage right now. So he's hungry enough to go over and eat whatever's left of the birdie bread. Bunch of So he overcame that, but sometimes they'll get kind of hooked on the idea of you feeding them. So, because that does happen in the wild, mates will feed each other, and you can't force feed them either. If they're not taking food at all, you can't give them. Then they need to go to the vet immediately, um, because they've got to get food in them. Their metabolisms are pretty high, and they burn through food fast. So if they're not getting it, you don't have a lot of time. So get them into the vet, where they may have to make sure they get proper liquids. Now, what you can do too, though, if you get a situation where they're not eating, try to give them like half Pedialyte, not the flavored stuff, just plain Pedialyte with water. So 50-50, half and half. And you can squirt that in with a syringe. Get something going. Now, when I started doing that with him, because he had the tongue injury, he was salivating, which means that his getting that water down was a problem for him. he wasn't getting it down. So
There's some mulatten flapping upside down. That's probably Jasmine.
that's the jazzbird.
Oh, wow. Is she having a lesson from Snowball in spider birding?
Yeah, except I forgot to bring Snowball out. I'll get him when we're done. Um, as long as
That's
KK
funny.
is calm, I'll bring him
It's
out.
Romeo out.
Yeah, Rome's right there.
That's why I ask. He looks like a shy Romeo boy. So Calvin is, as I, a little sad that we don't get to see the Tritons. We accept the reasons, right, Calvin? But
Yeah,
at least we see another bird we don't see too often. We see our Romeo.
yeah. Well, Bob he's adamant he will not let KK out with him. He will gives him the stare and he constantly tries to get to him. So KK doesn't even pay attention to Bob anymore, which KK's over that whole issue, but not Bob. And he
Nope,
doesn't tend to get over that kind of thing. I think
he's
that
frightened.
Pippa has gone insane. Um, I have to bring, I have to shoot when I bring her out. I have to shoot her with water almost constantly. And then the other nut is Lorelei. When I try to get Pippa out of here, she tries to go into attack mode. So I may have to break that up into two groups now. Now Bob would do fine if KK wasn't out here, but I'm not playing that game. Everybody else is getting along. So Bob has to come out with Lorelei. Pippa may have to come out by herself. I'm about 95% sure she's the one that did the deed on KK. I know you're a good bird. How you doing? How you doing, good bird?
I think I'll love to see big bird. So welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Um, Now KT Exact is it's the industry standard. You can also get the Harrisons, but you'll also notice on the Harrisons it doesn't even give you a clue what percentages to use. It doesn't tell you what temperature to deliver it at or anything. Um, KT does, but if you can understand those instructions, then you probably have a degree from college because they really don't do it. I did the math on it, and basically for an umbrella cockatoo, you want 35 milli. See, if you're going a little thin, I hear you over there. 35 milliliters. You're not going to let me talk, are you? I know they can't hear you, but you do block my voice out. I know that. 35 milliliters of water and 11 grams. Hey, now you're not going to start that again. No, not going to start the screaming. Let's not do it. No, no. You're going to have to go inside if you start that. No, no. He's bored. No. What are you doing? What are you doing? Time to look at the
Dream,
tip of his tongue,
dream,
no?
dream.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Hmm? I know you're bored. Oh, I know.
Mm,
Yeah, he's doing a lot of crying because there's no wood to chew on. Are you all right? Yeah, okay. I can't leave you out here if you're gonna scream. I can't do it. No, you don't have any close neighbors, but you do have neighbors. And you can have a screaming bird. I see. You need to get off my shoulder. Come on. Get over here. All right, you can go inside. I'll go in and get Snowball. Yeah, he'll go on like this, and he won't stop. Oh, 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 we're gonna do that. We're not doing that, are we? Well, now you're going to stop. That's because you realize you're going in, but that's you won't. There he goes again. Once he's just too bored. If he had something to chew on, it'd
Oh,
be
when we go in, we can actually say hi to the Tritons.
yeah, yeah, you can. Yeah, are you sure?
There's Lorelei. There's the KK cage.
He made see that's all he's got in here, so he's really bored. He's no hanging toys.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He says
all
my
he's
cage is boring.
it is.
Mm-hmm. So wait, the
Sorry,
loose goose was outside, so that cage is empty as well. Then there's the Pippa. Welcome, Pip.
Pip, Pip.
Look at that innocent angel Pip.
Yeah, she looks
Then
innocent.
our Snow bird.
Come on,
Hey,
Snowball.
Snowball. And then we also need to say hi to our Babaloo Bob. Hey, Bob. Yeah, I know the camera is evil, but we love you. We love
Yeah,
the Bob.
there goes the
Is
feathers on the back of her
Cecil's
neck, right?
outside, isn't he?
What's that?
Is Cecil outside?
Yeah,
Okay, then he just hasn't said hello to us today.
he was on the floor. He was on the ground for a while, and then he was sitting on my lap, and then I put him in the chair when I came in. There's Lucy. I can't leave without her screaming. You can't hear her, but she's just rah 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 rah. Here you go, Snowball. Should have brought you out before anyway. Uh, sorry. There you go. So if you're feeding a bird and because it's not eating, you're going to start with a thinner mixture. You might use 40 milliliters of liquid, water in this case. Uh, if it's been like 12 hours since they've eaten, you might mix it 50-50 with Pedialyte. And then you're going to give that food to them with a syringe. I use a 60 milliliter syringe. And, obviously it doesn't have a needle on it. It's just an open ended, what they call a slip lure tip. And just put it to the edge of their beak and squirt that food into the bottom of their beak. Now, if they eat the food and you see it starts to run out of their mouth and it's sticky, that means that they're salivating. Okay. So they're having trouble swallowing. So you're going to keep trying that. And if they can't do it, then you're going to go to Pedialyte 50-50 mixture, 50% water, 50% Pedialyte. And if that doesn't work, you're going to the vet. So
Green. How sweet.
Lucy, look at that, Lucy.
Mm.
Her beak needs a little work. Well, it doesn't look too bad. The lower section isn't too bad, but I am about I'm about 4 or 5 days late on doing their nails and their beaks. I've been so busy trying to deal with two sick birds. So, what are you doing over there, Mander? So you can't force feed them. If you were to try to force food down their throat, and if they can't swallow it, they could aspirate, and it could could be the end for them. So you don't want to do that. You want to put it in the lower section of their beak and try to get them to swallow it. Now with water, you can try to tilt their head back a little bit and get that water in their beak, but don't try to squirt it down their throat. That's not going to work. So yeah, the other thing is the temperature. Dealing with KK because he had a tongue injury, I was bringing it in at about 85 degrees, which is a little cold for them. But if you're bringing it at 102, which is about body temperature, it might open the wound. So, but normally you're going to go for around 102 degrees. And with KT Exact, you get the water up to 130. Yes, you need to buy a handheld thermometer, one of those little ones with a laser on it. You know, you can't just guess this stuff. It's not going to work. So you don't want to get it too hot because you're going to destroy some of the nutrition. You don't want to get it too cold because it's going to clump up when you try to feed it to them. So you get it to 130, then you put the dry in, and then you stir it. And once it's congealed, then you suck it into your syringe and you feed them slowly,
Mhm.
a little bit at a time. And again, you have to adjust this. Like for a tongue injury, you're not going to give them. Uh, you're not going to give it to them at 102 degrees. You're going to go 85 roughly, between 80 and 85. Or you could even go a little lower if they'll eat it, 75. But because warmth can tend to can well, put your hands, cut yourself, put your hand in warm water and see what happens. Right? Um, it's the same with them. So, you having fun over there?
We have a question from Giselle. Will a mouth thermometer work?
No, no, you can't do. You're not going to be able to do a mouth thermometer. So the laser thermometer, and you don't use it on their skin. You use it on their food only. These thermometers like that are not designed to be worked on any kind of flesh. So no, you can't use a mouth thermometer. They aren't expensive. You can get one for $20. I mean, anybody who has a parrot has to have $20 somewhere. They can buy one of these. They're easy. You can get them on Amazon. Just the point and click type.
Mhm.
Now, if you're going to feed them, when you get back to feeding them in the bowl, you can make it thicker. So when you're putting KT Exact in a bowl for them to eat, or if you're going to feed it to them on a spoon, which is not the easiest way to get that food in there. It's gonna end up all over the place and less of it in them. So that's why I say to use a syringe, um, 60 milliliter syringe with the O-ring gasket. Those will last forever. So you just have to sterilize them. Put a little oil around like a little olive oil around the O-ring so that it stays, you know, supple. But you can make it a little thicker. So in that case, I would go with 32 milliliters of water to 11 grams of the feeding KT Exact hand feeding powder. Now here's the thing. I'm telling you this, and you get yourself KT Exact, and you're going to sit. What do I do? And you're going to look at the packaging, you're not going to be able to figure it out. I guarantee you. Because the first time I looked at the package, I said, "Are they kidding? Who?" I was able. I sat down and did the math and worked it out. But they don't even give you a suggestion. They just give you a formula that doesn't. That is not. You have to convert it to a formula that you can work with. I don't know who wrote the instruction on the back of that package, but there's somebody that you should take a large trout and slap them in the face with it because it for the average person you're going to be lost. So I imagine what most people do is they try to put some water down and then throw some in there until it thickens. I mean, that's what I would imagine what most people would do rather than try to go through the hoops. I mean, you feel like you're a magician to try to figure that amount out. The other thing you can do though is you can use DeepSeek or Chat GPT, and I tried it. It comes out with the same that I did using the math, but you can say I've got KT exact. I have a bird that weighs this much. I need to figure out how much water and how much of the hand feeding formula to put in there, and it can do it for you. It'll even show you the math so you can do it for yourself. But it is good stuff, but the instructions on the back, they must have been written by somebody who wanted to torture you. And usually when you're using the hand feeding formula, it's it's a critical situation if you're doing it with adult birds. So with young ones too, because they eat 4 times a day. But not that we want to see any young ones being raised in captivity anymore. But so the angle, you're holding a syringe. This is the tip of the syringe, right? The if you can imagine the beak is straight right here. You just want to take the tip of the syringe and put it right in like this, tap the side of the beak until they open it and then squirt it in. You don't want to stick it inside their beak. And you don't want to go this way straight into the beak because what happens there is because of the lower part of the beak, you're going to get more on the outside of the beak than you are on the inside. So you want to come in at a little bit of an angle. And you can practice this by just using something like water or maybe a thin solution of um, something they like yams or butternut squash or something like that. So you can practice getting that angle right. Because when the day comes, you don't want to be trying to figure out what the actual mixture is supposed to be,
Mhm.
and B trying to figure out how you're going to give it to them. If you have to do that on a day where it's critical, you're probably going to throw your hands up. And if you have to drive 2 hours to the vet, that's what you're going to do. But that's 2 hours lost time too. Because if they need to eat, they need it now. So, what are you doing up there?
Okay. Now, Giselle wanted a clarification about the mouth thermometer, if it could be used for the food. And I just researched a bit and found out that most mouth thermometer are calibrated for measuring around body temperature. So if it goes far beyond this, it's absolutely not accurate anymore. So the thing with laser is it measures the surface, so usually inside the food, or so it's a little bit hotter. So when it's just about food, actually the best is one of these kitchen thermometer you can basically stick inside.
Yeah, except that most kitchen thermometers are not instant. So what you do is when you use the handheld thermometer, is you stir the food and then and then check the temperature.
Mm.
So you've mixed that hotter stuff that's inside, you mix it to the outside, and then immediately take the temperature. That's your best bet. There are some quick acting ones, but I don't know how accurate they are.
There,
Um,
let's say they're cheaper and then there are better ones. I think
the
the thing is the you when you cook something really difficult. where this is really important. I think they always have this kind of more important stuff, but probably I think the laser thermometer was meant for also use for the birds when you want to know their temperature.
You want to make sure it's a kitchen type too. You don't want one that goes up to 2,000 degrees. Some of them will do that. They have a really high temperature they'll go up to. You don't want that one. You want a uh, kitchen laser thermometer. So
Mhm.
for checking food. Um, I noticed that I read a lot of the reviews, and people who bought the ones with the high temperature were complaining they weren't accurate. Well, it's pretty hard to be accurate over that huge of a spread of temperature.
Mm. Yep, the
So
best is to research in and compare the specs, and then basically when you know for what you wanted and what it should be capable of doing, then looking at the specs and at the
um, of course, the meat probe goes up into the hundreds. I don't know. I it, if it works, it works. So
And Giselle has a further question. How many squirts of food at a time should you hand feed?
what you want to do is just kind of fill that lower part of the beak about halfway and then watch the bird. If the bird starts swallowing and a lot of it comes out of its beak, the next time go a little less. If they're able to swallow it, no problem, then you might be able to go a little more. But just adjust yourself to the bird, but never go more than half of that lower beak being filled with the food. So it's not going to hurt if you put more in there. There's It's going to come out. But then it's hard to know how much they swallowed. So if you want to really know how much they swallowed, you want to start with about half of that lower beak. And then let the bird teach you because you can tell. And if you hold the syringe in front of them and they're hungry, they'll come over for it uh, y- they'll get used to the idea that it's sitting there. When they want more, they can come over and just look at you, right? Or get close to the thing so you can put it in there. That has always worked for me. KK is terribly good at that. When he's ready for more, boy, he'll just go right over to the syringe, and then I give him a little more, and then he turns away and he swallows that, and then he comes back. So they develop a rhythm. And then you probably want to be taking pictures of their droppings to see, that'll tell you too how much they're digesting. Um, so between the weight, which now when you take weights, you want to do it in the morning before you feed them. Okay, because otherwise it'll be all over the spectrum. If you take their weight after they've eaten, obviously they could be up 15, 20 grams in weight. So catch them before and then compare it to the day before, and that's where it gives you your idea where you're going. So KK got down to the 560s, and then today was at 603 when I weighed him in the morning. So
Giselle, can you give her a clarification? So feed as much as they want, or how much if they are swallowing?
um, generally, it depends on the size of the bird, but for an umbrella cockatoo, you usually, if they're not eating on their own, you want to give them about 15 milliliters, um, and do that 4 times a day, that kind of thing. If they're eating pretty well on their when you're feeding it to them, you might go as much as 25 or 30 milliliters for an umbrella cockatoo. Probably as much between 25 and 40 for one of these big guys, uh, like the mander. I know, don't touch the beak. I know. That's why Sugar doesn't like you because you don't like your beak petted. Yeah. Yeah, this is the most important thing too. You got a bird who isn't eating. You've got to get them to start eating on their own. You can't force it down them, but if they'll keep taking food, there's no reason not to give it to them. It's not gonna, they get a little more than 15 milliliters. That's not a problem. Be prepared that you're going to be throwing away some of the mash too. You always want to make a little more just in case they decide they want more.
Mhm.
So, but
We're
at
having a
first,
little baby gander.
I don't know what Matter's just begging for petting right now, aren't you?
Giselle says thanks to you.
Oh, you're welcome. These are things that it's better to know ahead of time because
Mhm.
it's no fun. Um, and I'll tell you that first breeder I talked to was telling me that, oh, I just use my fingers to measure the temperature, and you know, today I know what I would say. I would have just looked at her and said, "You're an idiot." Yeah, that's what I would have just said it flat like that. You're just an idiot, because our fingers are not that good at sensing temperature.
Nope.
They can be way off. And with a
The
breeder
thing is,
who's
they can be trained to ignore heat when you
yeah,
wash dishes in really hot water. So, I mean,
yep.
we all know that one person who basically can take their hands into cooking water and has no problem with it.
Yep. Yeah, and all they need to do, that's what happened to Coco apparently, is they fed her food. She's no longer with us, but they fed her food that was too hot. They burned her crop and it was damaged permanently. So she had to have soft food all the time. When I got her, they were giving her a lot of oatmeal, really, mashed together oatmeal. That's what they said. Oh, that's what they told us she had to eat. Yeah, because they screwed her up. The breeders did, but so you
Mm,
don't want to overdo it because one time you give it to them too hot. Now, 102 is not too hot. You gave it to them at 130, which is what you're supposed to mix it at. You could damage their crops. So, and that means you're going to be hand feeding them from then on, probably. So you don't want to do that,
mm,
right? Right, Mander. So when they begin nibbling at food again, you want to give them soft food. What I was doing with KK is blending his mash, also giving him yams, anything soft he could eat. The birdie bread, I just added extra moisture to it, so it was more like mush. So he ate quite a bit of birdie bread, but just soft foods. And once they start showing that they're eating that, then you can cut back on giving them the hand feeding solution. You thicken it up, and which means you go to the base, the base is 32 milliliters of water and 11 grams of the powder. So yeah, you got to have a scale and you got to have you got to have something where you can measure milliliters, which a 60 milliliter syringe is perfect for. You just draw the water, put the water into a small bowl, draw it up till you get 32, and then you know dump the water. I usually just take the water and put it back in the water container, and then put that back into put the water into something where you can heat it. Takes about in my micro, it takes about 13 seconds to get it to 130 degrees. So take it out, put the mash in, stir it up. You do need a halfway decent scale. So you make sure you can make the mash properly. But then you
mhm.
start feeding them soft foods. If they've got pellets that are hard, you can water them down and make them into kind of a mush. Mander does that on his own, don't you? Give him some water, and then he drops his food into the water to make it soft. I just soften it for him now because I don't. He's drinking out of a bottle, so I just pre dunk it in water for him. That's what he likes anyway. So work them into the soft food. Put the soft food in their cage. Watch them for 15 minutes. They eat it, and then you don't need to give them any more hand feeding solution at the moment. Do the same thing at night. Put regular food out for them. If they eat it, fine. You don't have to give them the hand feeding. Next morning, weigh them. As long as they're not losing weight, you're cool. And then you're pretty much done with the feeding situation. So, and if it sounds easy, it's not. So, best to get best to like plan it out ahead of time and have that hand feeding solution on hand. You can get it through Amazon or Chewy or because if you've got a bird that's not eating, you can't wait 2 days to get it. And a lot of pet stores aren't going to keep that on hand. So you buy it and keep it hanging around. And as soon as I open a container of it, I immediately order another one. So, because, and then I end up throwing out the container. So if you get like 12 ounces of it, you're going to use maybe 2 or 3 ounces, throw the rest out. Sometimes though you don't. Sometimes they have to keep eating it, so you mix it up and you put it in their bowl. And you want to make sure they get nothing hard in their diet until their ability to swallow is back to its where it should be. So I'm used to doing it and it's still a pain. Okay. So practice and get used to the idea because these guys got to eat. And the thing about birds too is they try to keep their weight minimal. So a bird will not, most birds don't become overweight. So they don't have a lot of extra there. So when they start to run out of input in the way of food, then they're going to go downhill pretty fast. So you got to be right on it. One of the reasons I stress weighing your birds every day, I had one lady was telling me I can tell by just holding the bird, and I don't even know what to say to people like that. Really, you really think you can, huh? Yeah. I don't think that someone can tell the difference if a bird's dropped, like an umbrella cockatoo's dropped 10 grams. You're not going to be able to tell that by holding them. I don't care what you think. So I certainly go by the scale.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a calibrated scale. Scale will cost you about $50. They aren't cheap. And it's another $40 for the 11 pound. Actually, it's a five. It's a 5 kilogram weight that you have to put on it to calibrate it. But it's accurate down to a tenth of a gram. So, but you don't need one of those for this situation. That's more for when I'm measuring things that are really small amounts. But it does a good
Mm-hmm.
accurate weight on them too, doesn't it? He never used to like to stand on a scale, but he's gotten used to it. Oh yeah, you could do his nails. You could do a full physical on him, take him over to the scale, and he'd freak out.
Oh,
He doesn't do that anymore. He just stand. He knows he's only going to be on the scale for 20 seconds or whatever. He just puts up with it.
Amanda, are you afraid of knowing your own weight?
I think he is. Yeah.
Amanda has complexes. Poor boy. Yeah,
Yeah, but
so
he's
pretty.
He's gotten a lot stronger lately. He'll walk right over here and want to be petted when I have KK in my lap. And KK doesn't generally bother him anymore because
So
he
you mean
doesn't.
stronger from the mentality?
Huh? What?
Stronger from the mentality, not
Right.
physically stronger.
Yeah. Mentally a stronger bird. Yeah. A
Like Manda
strong.
started weightlifting.
Yeah. Weightlifting with his mind. He doesn't back down like he used to. Once in a while, he'll run away, but when he's running away, that's probably a good reason for it now.
Hmm.
He likes
Sometimes he
the.
should run.
He does like this bigger aviary, and I think that has helped him quite a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Moluccans really need their space.
Yeah, from each other too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I watched lately one video from the Indonesian Parrot Project where they actually um, tried to rescue, I think, a couple of Moluccan cockatoos that were caught from the trees, and then they were put in a ultra small cage together, and they really suffered, and they said something like they need much more space unless you want them to die. So that was critical. So might be a
During
thing for Moluccans that if they don't have personal space or so.
talking of personal space, there's Sugar.
Yep.
This is Mander, and there there is Jasmine. So
Hmm.
they couldn't get any farther apart right now if they tried.
Mm.
And the
And I have
umbrellas are.
double checked it, but when I looked up tritons or so, they seem also to be around in rather small groups. So that might be also a reason why Bob and Pippa stage tantrums when they are out with the other birds. Maybe that's just a triton way of life.
I don't know. I'm concerned about Pippa because she's just becoming more and more aggressive with other birds. Um,
Hmm.
she's not aggressive with me,
Mm-hmm.
um, but between her and Lorelai, they would if you put them in here by themselves, they'd kill each other. I have to pull out one of these squirt guns and start squirting them both, and otherwise they'll fight.
Mm-hmm.
The only other option is to bring them out separately. So that would mean Bob and Lorelai could come out because they generally get along, and then I have to bring Pippa out separately. But as it is now, I'm just bringing them all three out and using the water pistol to contain any kind of aggression until I go to take Pippa out. That I have to film that.
Mm-hmm.
The camera spot I have over here probably could show you what happens, but Lorelai just goes completely insane trying to get her, and I have to wrap her up in my arms, wrap Pippa up, and dart out that door. And the whole time Lorelai's trying to get to her, and it's just, I. Hmm. The other solution, which I probably will do actually, is to put Lorelai in the bucket so that I can get that way I can get Pippa out of here without all that drama.
Mm. Yeah. When there are just umbrellas or so, sometimes that's different. Even now with that huge aviary or so, last time I had a talk with Don, they were just all sitting on him, which was
Yeah,
funny. Don basically covered in white
I was.
from
There's
head to
all.
toes.
Today they're giving me space. I don't know why, but they are. Although they were on me earlier.
Hmm.
So that one came down first there, Sugar. She came down and sat on a chair right next to my head.
Sugar is caring. Amanda, you're adorable.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention one more time is if you're feeding them and it's coming out stringy, that means that they're salivating. And if they're salivating, they're having trouble actually swallowing. So you want to watch that. If you feed them, and this goes on for 24 hours, they've got to go into the vet because they're not getting any nutrition. But you'll know that from the weight too, because you'll say the weight drop. But that happened with KK. He was having trouble swallowing. Well, yeah, he had a swollen tongue. And then of course I had to decide. And so I went talking back and forth with ChatGPT. I know that giving an NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, giving one of those can cause bleeding, increased bleeding. But at this point, his tongue is swollen and he's having trouble. So it was one of those where it was a judgment call. I had to decide, and I gave him the meloxicam, and within a couple of hours, he was able to eat normally. So fortunately,
Mm-hmm.
our vet allows us to keep some of these things on hand. So
Mm-hmm.
of course, once you pop it open, you got to call the vet and say, "Can I have another bottle?" That bottle's only good for about 30 days after you pop it open. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing with medicine. Amanda, you are so pretty. Yesterday, I had to make labels for our dahlia plants. Um, in late fall, we have to dig them out and put the roots in the basement since it's too cold for them outside. And then we have to determine or basically put labels with the colors of them on the roots. And one we weren't sure like what's the color, and I was like, yeah, it looks like mandarin because it actually had this all pinkish to yellowish flavor, full spectrum. Mm,
Mander color.
mm.
Well,
It's a pretty dahlia.
thank you guys for being here. And don't forget, we do have merchandise that Amy worked hard on out at our site, which you can get there by our link tree.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
we
thanks for
probably,
coming, everybody. Thanks for your questions. We're happy to answer them. And thank you, Don, for showing us the birds and giving us some of your knowledge.
such as it is. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for being here. We will see you on the next time, which will be
Have a happy
Monday.
Halloween.
Yeah, I think I think we have the time change coming. So the next one's going to be weird too.
No,
Probably,
actually, I think for us, we are basically then synchronized again. 9 hour difference.
I hope so. It would be no fun if you showed up an hour early, right?
That wouldn't be the problem. Better than last time I showed up half an hour late.
But years ago, when I was working in a warehouse, if the time change came, one time I'd be an hour early, the next time I'd be an hour late. I never got it right because I don't watch
Mhm.
TV. And they're always blah 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 on the TV. I can't stand listening to those people. They're just idiot mouths that read a teleprompter. I can't stand it. But so I was just oh yeah, we figured you'd be late. They think about it too late, right? They couldn't get a hold of me, so I'd be late one time and early the next. I didn't mind being early. I could go and get some breakfast or something somewhere and then come back. But okay, Mander, you gonna say goodbye to everybody? Mander saying goodbye. Thanks,
Bye bye.
Amy. Thanks for your help. We're out of here.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.